Welcome, friends, to another journey into the remarkable story of Rome. Imagine yourself walking through the bustling streets of the early Roman Republic. The year is 494 BCE. The air smells of fresh bread from the bakeries, smoke from hearth fires, and the faint tang of livestock in the forum. Rome is a city alive with motion, yet beneath the surface of its daily rhythm, a quiet tension simmers. A tension born not of foreign armies, not of famine, but of the people themselves, the common citizens demanding a voice against a hereditary elite. This is the story of the conflict of the orders, a centuries-long struggle that would define Roman society and governance. It is the tale of patricians, the noble families who traced their lineage back to Romulus and the founding of Rome, and plebeians, the everyday citizens, farmers, soldiers, artisans, whose labor and sacrifice built the city, yet whose voices were ignored. Over nearly 2 centuries, these two classes clashed, negotiated, and ultimately reshaped the Republic. But how did this monumental struggle begin, and what lessons does it hold for us today? To understand the conflict, we must first remember the birth of the Republic itself. In 509 BCE, Rome overthrew its last king, Tarquinius Superbus, after a scandal that shook the city. The tragic story of Lucretia, whose fate ignited a revolution led by Brutus and others determined to end tyranny. With the monarchy gone, Rome created a system that placed power in the hands of 2 annually elected consuls, supported by the Senate, an advisory council of patricians. But while Rome celebrated liberty, not all citizens were free in the same way. The patricians retained control over political offices, religious authority, and legal knowledge. Plebeians were excluded from the Senate, barred from the consulship, and often kept in the dark about the laws themselves. Imagine the life of a plebeian in these early years. You wake before sunrise, tend your fields, care for your family, and fight in Rome's wars against the Volsci, Equi, and Etruscans. You bleed for Rome, yet your crops may be seized by patrician creditors. Failure to pay debts could result in nexum, a form of debt bondage that turns citizen into servant. How would you feel returning home from battle exhausted, only to find your household under threat? Surely you would begin to wonder, is this the freedom we fought for? Tensions finally erupted in 494 BCE. Rome faced military threats on its borders and needed soldiers. But the plebeians, tired of injustice at home, did something extraordinary. They refused to fight. They marched out of the city to the Mons Sacer, the sacred mount. This act, known as the First Secession of the Plebs, was a peaceful rebellion, a strike that left Rome defenseless. The Senate, alarmed at the city's vulnerability, was forced to negotiate. From this confrontation emerged the tribune of the plebs, officials elected by plebeians to protect their interests. The tribunes held sacrosanctity, meaning it was a crime, both religious and civic, to harm them. For the first time, ordinary citizens had a political shield. But did this solve the underlying inequality? Not entirely. The tribunes could protect the plebeians, but they could not yet legislate for them. Patricians still held the consulship, the Senate, and control of the sacred laws. The struggle continued. Over the next decades, plebeians pressed for more access to governance. They demanded transparency in the law, access to offices, and protections against debt. In 451 BCE, after persistent pressure, Rome established the Decemviri, a council of 10 men tasked with creating a written code of laws. By 450 BCE, the 12 tables were displayed in the forum for all to see. For the first time, law was no longer a secret held by patrician priests, it was public. These tables covered everything from family obligations to property disputes, debt, and punishments. While harsh by today's standards, the 12 tables represented a victory for plebeian rights, a monumental shift from arbitrary justice to codified law. Yet the struggle for political equality was far from over. Plebeians sought the highest offices, still barred from the consulship. Centuries of tradition, ancestry, and sacred authority were stacked against them. For decades, patricians resisted every attempt at reform. But in 367 BCE, the Licinian Sextian laws broke new ground. These laws limited how much public land a citizen could hold and mandated that one consul each year be a plebeian. Imagine the moment. A plebeian, once powerless, now standing as consul alongside a patrician. It was revolutionary. Even so, the fight was not complete. Patricians retained certain priesthoods and offices. Plebeians continued to push for equality through the concilium plebis, the plebeian assembly. Over time, they gained the ability to pass plebiscites, decisions initially binding only on plebeians but increasingly influential. Step by step, law by law, the plebeians carved out a place in governance. This tug-of-war shaped the daily lives of Romans. For a plebeian farmer in the 4th century BCE, the ability to appeal to a tribune could mean the difference between survival and servitude. For the plebeian soldier, participation in assemblies and the prospect of rising to office offered hope. Meanwhile, patrician families adapted, forming alliances through marriage with wealthy plebeian families, giving rise to the nobiles, a new elite blending the old aristocracy with newly empowered citizens. Archaeological evidence illuminates these transformations. Excavations of the Roman Forum reveal the comitium, where plebeians gathered, and the rostra, where tribunes addressed the people. Inscriptions record plebeian consuls and magistrates proudly displaying their achievements. Fragments of the 12 tables survive, reminding us of the moment when law became visible, public, and equitable. Even in burial inscriptions, we see plebeians now asserting prestige once reserved for patricians. The conflict of the orders culminated in 287 BCE with the Lex Hortensia, which declared that plebiscites were binding on all Romans, patrician and plebeian alike. This law effectively ended the centuries-long struggle for political equality. Rome had transformed from a patrician monopoly to a republic that recognized the rights of its common citizens. Yet even this victory did not erase social hierarchies. Wealth and influence continued to shape politics, but the principle of shared governance had been established. Throughout this story, one question emerges. How did Rome maintain stability despite such profound internal conflict? The answer lies in compromise, adaptation, and the blending of tradition with innovation. Plebeians and patricians learned to negotiate, to respect laws, and to recognize that the survival of the republic depended on inclusion and fairness. Rome's greatness was not built on conquest alone, but on her ability to evolve politically and socially. Consider the daily implications. Festivals, religious rituals, and public games often reflected these tensions and accommodations. Patricians continued to sponsor sacred rites while plebeians gained representation in civic ceremonies. Even the architectural layout of the Forum, the heart of Roman public life, bore witness to this evolving balance. Spaces where both classes could exercise voice and witness authority. The conflict of the orders is more than a political narrative. It is a story of courage, persistence, and negotiation. It reminds us that social change is often incremental, requiring vision, endurance, and collective action. From the Mons Sacer to the 12 tables, from tribunes to plebiscites, Rome was reshaped by ordinary citizens demanding justice. It was a struggle that defined her republic, and the legacy of that struggle echoes through Western political thought even today. As we conclude our journey through the centuries-long conflict of the orders, remember this. Rome's triumph was not just in her conquests abroad, but in her ability to adapt at home. Her laws, her institutions, and her society were forged in the fires of negotiation, protest, and compromise. The plebeians' persistence ensured that Rome could grow into a republic capable of governing a vast territory for centuries. And now, friends, our exploration of Rome continues. In our next video, we will delve into another cornerstone of Roman civilization, early Roman law, from custom to written codes. We will uncover how unwritten traditions became formal laws, shaping the republic and influencing the world for millennia.